American administration has gone out of its way to consult its allies, to keep us fully informed so that we are part of the deliberations they're making. But we have to do two things, in my view. First of all, there has to be a response to bring those terrorists who committed this attack to account, and we will play our full part in that. And secondly, there has then to be an agenda that we construct at an international level that involves the whole of the international community in dismantling the machinery of international terrorism, how it's financed, how these people move about the world, the countries that then harbour them and give them help.
Now, what the Prime Minister was talking about was a long and sustained and difficult intelligence-gathering campaign, detective work, and all the kinds of non-military kind of work that will have to go in to the way the world leaders are describing their campaign to cut off the head of these terrorist cells. There has been unprecedented international support for the United States, and coming from not only the usual allies around the world, but also from some of the least suspected areas. For instance, in Iran, for the first time, hardliners and reformers condemned this attack. Iran, of course, has been accused of sponsoring terrorism in the past. They had a moment of silence at a football game. The mayor of Tehran sent a message to the mayor of New York today. I mean, these are unprecedented things. In Yemen, in all the other countries around that region, an enormous amount of political support for the United States at this moment. Wolf?
Christiane Amanpour in London, once again, thank you very much. I want to go now to the Pakistani ambassador to the United States, Malia Lodi. She joins us now in our Washington bureau. Madam Ambassador, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Tell us the latest from your government. Is the government of Pakistan issuing an ultimatum to the Taliban and, in effect, to Osama bin Laden to hand over Osama bin Laden within 3 days?
Well, as you know, there are UN sanctions on Afghanistan, and that prohibit travel to that country. What we have done today is to approach the UN Sanctions Committee for permission to allow a delegation from Pakistan to travel to Kandahar to urge upon the Taliban leadership the gravity of the situation, as well as to accede to the demand of the international community. And that demand, as you know, is now expressed in resolutions of the UN Security Council as well as the UN General Assembly, which call for all countries of the world to join in the war against terrorism and to bring to justice the perpetrators of those who carried out these terrible attacks, these terrible terrorist attacks in New York and in Washington.
All right, let's walk through the process right now. When will this delegation from Pakistan go to Afghanistan and meet with the Taliban?
We are expecting this delegation to fly out tomorrow once we have received permission from the UN Sanctions Committee, which will allow that plane to travel to Afghanistan.
And then what happens then? Will the demand be that Osama bin Laden be handed over to the government of Pakistan?
I think the important issue right now is that we will be urging upon the Taliban leadership something that we have been talking to their representative in Islamabad as well, which is to accede to the demand of the international community. And you know what that demand is.
Spell it out for our viewers. They're watching all over the world right now.
The demand is to bring to justice the perpetrators of the crime that has been committed, which we regard in Pakistan as a crime against humanity, to hand over the person that they are harboring, Osama bin Laden, so that he is brought to justice.
And so just to be specific, the government of Pakistan does believe that Osama bin Laden and his al-Qaeda organization were responsible for these terrorist outrages.
Well, as you know, senior officials of the US administration regard Osama bin Laden as a prime suspect. We are responding to the call of the international community as well as the United States in helping to see what we can do and try to use the diplomatic option before more extreme ways are evolved to deal with the situation.
Now, as you well know, Madam Ambassador, a lot of U.S. officials are skeptical that the Taliban will cooperate, will indeed find Osama bin Laden and hand him over to the international community. What happens if the Taliban simply says no?
Well, I think it's very clear that right now several options are being considered. We don't know how the response will evolve and how it will unfold. But I think what is clear, and as a member state, Pakistan is a member state of the United Nations, and under international law, we stand ready to implement all the decisions of the Security Council, and those decisions you're well aware of. They call upon all countries to help in the war against terrorism. We stand with the international community. We are consulting very closely right now with other Islamic countries, particularly our close friend and ally, Saudi Arabia, to ensure that we are all united and that the world is united in this war against terrorism. Let me tell you, my country has been afflicted by this menace for the last 2 decades. Pakistan has confronted terrorism in various forms. So we know exactly how it feels when you have to deal with something like this. There is no way that we can deal with this monster unless the world is united on this. And we stand ready to help and to extend our fullest cooperation to the international community to bring this menace to an end.
Let's talk about that help that the U.S. government will be seeking from your government. We heard Secretary Powell say on this program earlier that within the next few days, a high-level U.S. delegation will be sent to Islamabad, to Pakistan, to discuss cooperation between the two governments. Has the government of Pakistan made a fundamental decision to cooperate, if necessary, militarily with the U.S.?
I am not at liberty. I cannot discuss specific proposals that the U.S. administration has made to us, but I do want to reassure listeners, viewers, as well as others in the administration that our indication of firm support and fullest cooperation to the international community as well as the United States is firm and solid. Specific proposals are under discussion. You will appreciate the sensitivity of these matters. And I'm not at liberty to discuss specific proposals that have been made to us, but we will do whatever it takes to ensure that we stand with the international community to do what is necessary.
You know, of course, the many reports that one of the issues, one of the requests from the United States is to permit Pakistani airspace to be used, if necessary, for missiles or for U.S. planes, other planes, to fly over because Afghanistan is landlocked, as you know. Has the government of Pakistan accepted that proposal?
We have, again, you know, I can only answer this in the way that we have indicated a firm policy of support and cooperation. I cannot go into specific proposals that have been made to us by the United States because, as you know, the situation is evolving and I cannot discuss these in public.
I can understand that. One of the issues that was raised in one of the statements our Tom Mintier is reporting from Islamabad, he said that the Pakistani government, in expressing its willingness to cooperate with the United States, is imposing a condition that the government of Israel and the government of India not be included in any sort of coalition that would work against Osama bin Laden. Is that, in fact, the position of your government?
I'm not aware of anybody asking us in the first place about who will be part of this coalition. So, no, quite honestly, it's a hard question for me to answer because it's extremely hypothetical. What we have emphasized is the need for Islamic countries to be together on this, and Islamic countries are together on this. I think it's important for this international coalition to have a strong and visible component from the Islamic countries for obvious reasons. That is the point that we have made. Well, now, if somebody is characterizing that differently...
Just to be precise, no one was suggesting that anyone had asked Pakistan for suggestions on who should be included. This was supposedly a Pakistani initiative. Just don't include Israel or India in this coalition. It'll make it a lot easier for Pakistan to cooperate.
I think we're going into specifics here. I'm not aware of anything of the sort that you're mentioning, but I think our sensitivities on these issues should be kept in view.
One of the statements that was issued yesterday by the Taliban leadership is this, and I want to play it, a Taliban spokesman making this statement earlier this weekend. Listen to this.
If neighboring or regional countries, particularly Islamic countries, gave a positive response to American demand for military bases, it would spark up extraordinary danger. Similarly, if any neighboring country gave territorial way or airspace to USA against our land, it would draw us into an imposed war.
That sounds like a direct threat to your government from the Taliban not to cooperate with the U.S.
My government has taken a decision to cooperate with the international community, and we will do so.
Is there a quid pro quo? Is there anything you're asking the United States to provide Pakistan in exchange for your cooperation with the U.S.?
We are going to be cooperating as part of our international commitment to deal with the menace of terrorism. This is not the time to nickel and dime on these issues, and we're not engaged with that. However, we do expect our friends to help us manage the risks which are obvious in a situation as we go down this road. There is an immediate response that we know will have to be made, and then there is a sustained longer-term response that will have to be evolved. In this, obviously, we expect our friends to help us manage the situation. As you know very well, extremism grows in situations of economic decline. Extremism is born of despair and desperation. And my country has been through a difficult economic period, and we certainly expect our friends to help us through our difficult economic difficulties.
And as you know, I was in Pakistan last year, and I spent several days there meeting with high-ranking officials, but also with many other people. And the despair that is felt, the anger towards the United States for supposedly abandoning Pakistan after the Afghanistan war, has been translated to some significant support for Osama bin Laden.
Well, I think there are people who hold different points of view in Pakistan, and we have seen extremist points of view also being voiced in Pakistan, and you heard it for yourself. But we take comfort from the fact that the vast majority of Pakistanis are practicing Muslims, but they are moderate Muslims. That is also borne out by the fact that in every successive election that has taken place in Pakistan, the religious or the extremist parties have never done terribly well. In fact, combined, the religious parties have never been able to get more than 2 or 3% of the popular vote. That is a statement about the quintessence of the Pakistani nation, which is moderate and which is tolerant. That is the Pakistan that is extending its fullest cooperation to the international community on this issue.
U.S. intelligence sources have told me over the past few years they have a deep concern that some of the groups associated with Osama bin Laden may be gaining a foothold even within the Pakistani military. Is that a serious concern that the U.S. and others should have?
Well, I have not heard any U.S. official say that to my side or to me. I think we need to keep our focus on the cooperation. As you know, there are close consultations going on between our two countries. The presidents of our two countries have spoken yesterday on the telephone. We need to keep our focus where it really belongs, which is how to fight this menace to ensure also that there is security in the region where my country is situated. We are situated in a very volatile and dangerous part of the world. Obviously, we seek longer-term security and peace in our region. As I said, there is an immediate response, but we also have to look longer-term to see that we have an approach that deals with some of the underlying reasons which give rise to people who hold extremist views.
As you know, your president, Pervez Musharraf, was scheduled to come to New York to the United Nations for the opening of the General Assembly. Is he still planning on coming here?
No, he has. We have in fact conveyed to the administration the fact that he has cancelled his visit. He obviously does not wish at this point to be a burden at a time when your country is going through such an extraordinary crisis. I also wanted to take this opportunity, Wolf, if you will allow me,
Please,
to offer our sincerest condolences from the people and the government of Pakistan to the American people. We share your grief and we share the grief of the victims of this terrible tragedy. I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you very much, Malia Lodi, the ambassador of Pakistan to the United States. I assume you're going to be on this program frequently in the next few weeks and months. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks.
And now let's go back to the CNN Center in Atlanta. Darren Kagan is standing by with a check of the latest developments in America's new war. Just one note, Darren, when we come back after the news, we're going to continue these conversations. We're going to have a panel. The U.S. intelligence community also have a panel on some religious leaders and what they're thinking and saying on this day. Darren?
Yes, and Wolf, they have been fascinating discussions to listen to. Also, we know our viewers are interested in the developments, and there have been a number of developments today following last week's terrorist attacks, so let's get right to them. First, to Vice President Dick Cheney, who says that President Bush did give orders to shoot down incoming commercial airlines over Washington. That was immediately after terrorist attacks in New York and at the Pentagon on Tuesday. If those planes were judged to be a threat. At the time, one hijacked plane was heading toward